Palestine, Palestine, we love you, Palestine. We know that someday you'll be free. From the mountains to the sea, beloved Palestine.
Durban, 90.4 FM. Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM.
Every student can learn, just not on the same day or the same way. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an opened one.
Join Sumaya Khan every Tuesdays between 7 and 8 p.m. for an educational evening exclusive to Radio Al-Ansar.
Your education is a dress rehearsal for a life that is yours to lead. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to School Matters. Yes, with me, Sumaya Khan, your host for tonight. Yes, there's so much going on. We have our elections on the 29th. And currently, right now in Tekwini, KZN, we have a conference happening at the Olive Convention Center. It's Act Against Crime. So if you are in Durban, join us at the Olive Convention Center. That's actually at North Beach at 8 p.m. tonight, this evening. It's an Act Against Crime, and they have different delegates who will be discussing police forum. We're actually linking up with Abdool Valodia. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so we will be linking up with him a bit later. I think we are trying to get hold of him. Right now at the Olive Convention Center, as I mentioned, it's Act Against Crime. While we're all affected, we complain about crime. So now is the time to stand up and speak up. Come and raise your voice. How are you affected? Are police doing enough? What needs to be done? What to join, if you want to join the police, the government. So you can join. This is your opportunity. Yeah, so as I mentioned, the 29th is our elections. Okay, we got hold of Brother Abdool Valodia. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah for linking up with me. I believe you are at the conference at the Olive Convention Center. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sumaya, we're actually heading to the Olive Convention. The meeting starts at 8 o'clock, right? It's more of basically we're discussing the security issues that we faced with currently, in our areas in KZN. So people will be addressing the safety and security with the Premier of KZN. So that's what the interaction is all about. And it's a pity that I think the meeting was actually set up for 8 o'clock. And I can't give you much information as yet. Still, I'm actually en route to the facility.
For listeners out there, you also wear the cap of Overport Ratepayers Association, and you're quite involved in the community.
Yes, I am the chairperson of the Overport Ratepayers Association. I've also got the deputy chair, which is Krish, Dr. Krish as well, attending, and also our ExCo members, which is Ashok, and also myself and Imran, Imran Subrati, also part of the ratepayers, and also not forgetting Imran also wears the hat of United for Palestine, is my Secretary General, and the good news is that most probably I'd like to share with the listeners as well. Imran is also a candidate on the ANC as number 7 for KZN.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so we have representation basically which will help us a lot in our community, in our society, that we have our own brother Imran Subrati being involved with the ruling party as number 7 on the list.
Okay. Do you know, my topic this evening is getting the youth involved in activism. You are quite involved. What advice you have for our youth out there?
Yes, for the youth itself, I think it's very, very important. If we try and understand, structures of governance, and I know you're coming off also with regards to your own caps, being involved in the education sector, involved with some unions. And one thing we must admire and look at the youth with regards to political parties, and look at how strong the youth league is on their side. And we as Muslim community leaders as well, we need to establish our youth into a very strong platform. And we always say, like, we have United for Palestine, which is the UFP Youth League. We have established a United for Palestine Youth League that we've come on, and alhamdulillah is going actually very strong. And we had an engagement with Dr. Naledi Pando, which was at the ML Sultan, and I think you were also present up there. Yeah, and if you notice, the Youth League was also there. And the turnout of our community was actually not so great. So we encourage the youth need to play a more important role as far as activism is concerned, and get involved with organizations like us or other organizations, and start working together, that you could get the buy-in, where it'll improve our youth, improve the issues they face with, the challenges they face with. For example, we are very honored to meet also one of our ladies, which is Fees Must Fall. Fasia Hassan, I think, if you guys would have recollect the name. And she was on the very forefront of Fees Must Fall. And that all came out from the Youth League. So that's how important it is. And today, alhamdulillah, she's also one of the ministers of parliament now. If you look at it, being one of the youngest, 30 years old, sitting in parliament, and all started from Youth League. So this is important for our youth to play an active role. And if I recollect, it wasn't too long ago, we actually with the president himself. And he says, guys, we want to see the youth. We need to, we need to be involved with the youth. Look at what's happening in the US now. If you look at, with regards to the ICJ, the youth has come out to the street now. They are the people that's playing a very big role, that where society is looking at this turn, how things are moving along. I was actually, alhamdulillah, I was present at the global, anti-apartheid, convention. And it was a very, very powerful convention.
This was over the weekend.
Yes, that happened from basically Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? So alhamdulillah, I was very privileged to be there, and I represented United for Palestine, as an organization. And I can tell you the impact of this was huge, was so huge. And we had leaders from all over the world that actually came over, and people came to address how South Africa managed to take this matter to the ICJ, and how the other countries now are coming to support us. I was actually very privileged also to meet with the ex-Prime Minister of Turkey, was present. Also the ex-president of Bulgaria, he was present there as well. I've also met with our ex-president in Thabo Mbeki, also not forgetting our lady Naledi Pando. We actually exchanged a lot of new hope that we have for the Palestinian struggle that's going on. So activism as a youth, coming back to the youth plays a very important role, and they must be involved in the forefront.
Anyway, Jazakallah so much for linking up with us, and hope you arrive at the conference safe. And maybe we can hook up again, and you can tell us, the feedback from the conference, which is taking place in KZN at the moment at the Olive Convention Center.
Inshallah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Listeners, that was Brother Abdool Valodia, Overport Ratepayers Association. There is a conference taking place at the Olive Convention Center right now, and it's concerning, change, betterment. Yes, it's actually aligned with our topic too, because we are getting our youth involved in activism. Getting activism. Youth activism is a potent tool for bringing about change in our neighborhoods and the wider world. Being young, gives us the vigor, enthusiasm, and determination to express our opinions, provides original ideas, and become more involved and active citizens. One of the most effective ways young activists to change the world is through service initiatives. Well, these can include neighborhood, beautification initiatives, collaboration with neighborhood shelters to assist the homeless, voter registration at the moment, and civic engagement campaigns and enhancing access to education for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Youth activism also includes a vital social justice topics such as diversity, equity, and inclusion in our communities, and confronting oppressive systems. So we will continue with our guest after the break.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them, but what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
In order to streamline our operations and ensure your donations reach those in need swiftly and efficiently, the Al Ansar Relief and Welfare has updated banking details for the Lillah and Sadaqah contributions. Bank FNB. Account name Outreach Al Ansar. Account type check account. Account number 631-0020-3081. Branch Florida Road. Your generosity fuels our mission to uplift communities, provide essential aid, and offer hope to those facing adversity. With these new banking details, your donations will continue to make a profound impact on the lives of countless individuals in need. Jazakallah for your continued support, and together we can create positive change and spread compassion far and wide.
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Al Ansar.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to School Matters with me, Sumaya Khan. Yes, we have an interesting topic this evening. Is how do we get the youth involved in activism? We as South Africans are always complaining, our youth are not involved. They don't even know what happened in the past. They don't even know the legacies that which have been left behind. Well, our guest this evening, who will also be linking up all the way from Johannesburg, a South African politician, who was Gauteng's member of the Executive Council for Transport from 2010 to 2019. He also been an educator, lecturer, member of the Transvaal Indian Congress and United Democratic Front, founder, member of the Lenasia Youth League, and also served as the national vice president for the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU. Dr. Ismail Vadi is also an author and has a book dedicated to the apartheid-era education titled Teachers in the Struggle Against Apartheid Education. I would want to say Amandla, because this was, I think, to all educators who are listening to School Matters, they said, finally, a book written where they can relate to. The book pays tribute to the late veteran educationist, Mr. Billy Morgan, who dedicated 39 years of his life to teaching before he passed away, a few weeks ago. I think maybe a couple months. Dr. Vadi, the author, describes Morgan as an inspirational teacher, a leader, and dedicated many pages of his book to him and 45 leading teachers, mainly from Lenasia and Johannesburg, who fought against apartheid education. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to School Matters.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, it's really an honor, a pleasure in your busy day. I know now you're taking it a bit easy, but you are always called for an interview or to do a workshop or to present or educate or facilitate something. So once again, Jazakallah for linking up with School Matters. The topic I really love, and all that you have been involved in your lifetime thus far, it relates to this activism, getting our youth involved in activism. Before we get into that, can you tell us your journey, when you were younger, how you got involved in activism and other structures of South Africa?
All right. So when I was in school, I wasn't really political, but I matriculated in 1976, and that was the year of the student uprisings in Soweto. Of course, that had some impact on us because Lenasia is really a stone's throw away from Soweto. And we saw all these images on television of students, being attacked by police, violence in the townships, eventually schools being burned. And then for the entire year, for that year of 1976 and the better part of 1977, there was virtually no schooling at all in large numbers of the African townships. So that was our first real taste of political activism and just mass struggles in the education arena. But we in school, we continued. We were not part of the boycott. And the only biggest thing we were debating is whether we should have a matric ball or not that year in solidarity with the students of Soweto. Then I got to University of Durban-Westville, and there I was staying in a hostel and came into contact with a number of key activists, particularly Mohammed Vadi Musa, who eventually went on to become a minister in the government of Thabo Mbeki, and was with me in parliament since 1994. And with him, a number of other people who were involved politically, but on campus, things were done almost like clandestinely. There was no open political activity or meetings, etc. But in the res, we had lots of discussion. We had time to ourselves. And I think my sort of real first political awakening started there. But I could, in the middle of the year, I was doing a BSc, and I really realized quite late that I wasn't cut out for that. So I quit, came back home, found a temporary job. And then I had to apply for ministerial permission from the Minister of Education to study at FITS. Fortunately, that came through, and then I got registered for a PA degree at FITS. And there, I think I got more deeply involved. We had on campus the Black Student Society. We were about 600 Black students compared to probably several thousand white students. But the BSS became quite a focal point of student activism, particularly in the 1980s student boycotts, and then for the better part of the decade on campus. That political awareness or awakening translated into my involvement in formation of the Lenasia Youth League. I was already a teacher by then, but after the 1980 boycotts, we thought it was important to consolidate that, particularly the interest among students, into some kind of an organization, and we formed the Lenasia Youth League, or LYL as we know it. And there, 60 or 70 very good activists emerged over that whole decade. We were active throughout the 1980s. We became the rank and file activists of the Transvaal Union Congress, the UDF, and some of them eventually joined the ANC underground, including its armed wing Umkhonto we Sizwe. So that's really the beginning of my own political activism.
Yeah. Do you know, apartheid, we tend to talk about it a lot. Listen, these are the views and opinions of us, not the radio. Being an educator myself, being a child who I think we grew up during apartheid, and then I think it stopped halfway through. Many of the youth today don't really know. When they think of apartheid, they don't really know what the struggle was. History is changing, and they don't know much. And youth are not involved in activism. Our youth is nowhere to be seen. And generally, we just tend to have one race group involved or another race group. And I'm going to say this on air. Our Muslim community, we very seldom get, our youth involved. As Brother Valodia mentioned, which we attended with Naledi Pando, the ANC Youth League. And there were very few representation from different race groups. And people tend to complain about the unfairness. but we need to get involved. As I said, you have been involved in structures in government. What advice do you have there for especially our minority, our Muslim learner out there, a child from Muslim Islamic school? Should they get involved in the in activism? How can they get involved? You know, a lot of them are very scared. Stay out of politics. Advice from parents.
Yeah. So look, I think what is important is that we must not believe or come to understand. We must not come to believe that youth will be in our own image. It will be a mistake. We lived in a different time. The context was very different. The nature of the broader struggle against apartheid, particularly in the 1980s, it was a different historical moment, and there was a massive upsurge in the country. To expect the same kind of thing to happen today, it's not going to be possible. That's the first point. Secondly, every generation will determine its own struggles, its own issues, its own challenges. It will advance its own interests. So 2 or 3 years ago, for example, on the university campuses, the issue was fees must fall. Hunger of the students there, poverty, accommodation crisis, the cost of higher education. And that was a major struggle. It was a major struggle. And a lot of, interestingly, a good number of students from the Indian community and other communities participated. A number of leaders emerged from that particular struggle. I'm thinking, for example, of Shahira Kala from Lodium in the Victoria area, became a leading figure in that struggle. High profile, led many of the student marches, at least in Gauteng. Similarly, Fasiya Hassan, she was the secretary of the Muslim Students Association at that time.
Yeah.
And today she's a candidate for the ANC. So I think each generation will determine its own struggles. The third point is that the best way to organize young people is through their interests.
Yeah.
What is of interest to them? Okay, so culture is one area, education is another area. Today, youth unemployment is a big issue. In communities, drug and alcohol abuse, all of those things, the social problems are there. And the best way in sport is a very good organizer of young people. So we need to tap into their natural interests and to see how best they can get organized. You're right in saying that young people are not interested in party politics. I get that sense. If I take my own children, they're very political, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want to get involved in the ANC in the same way that I got involved in the ANC. I mean, for me in the 80s and 90s, we lived and dreamt the ANC and were 24 hours involved in organizational work, etc. If I tell my children, let's go to an ANC branch meeting, they say, Daddy, you must be joking. We're not interested. But they are very active. Let me tell you, they are very, very active. I mean, my son runs Salam Foundation. He's national director of Salam Foundation, doing amazing work around humanitarian support work, relief work, charity work in the communities, in different parts of the world, including this country, including South Africa. And there are days when he is much more busier than I am. He's got an organizational network of young people throughout the country that I don't have. So you see, he's chosen a different path, but it's organizational, it's out of his interest, it's what gives him satisfaction and meaning in life. If I take my daughter Zakira, she won't come, she doesn't want to get involved with the ANC as a party, but she's very active in the Ambedkar Foundation. And now she is a key organizer for the Defend Our Democracy campaign. So she is now organizing a whole array of civil society organizations that are concerned about corruption in government, state capture, strengthening democracy. When we saw the July 2021 uprisings and destabilization in KZN and the unrest, they were very key in getting civil society organizations to condemn that kind of it, because it threatened our democratic order, and it intended to destabilize the society and the constitutional framework in the country. So she is very political, but she's not party political. And I think once we understand that, and once we accept that young people I don't think they get attracted to party politics.
Yeah.
Party politics is becoming very staid, very bland. It's only the diehards or those who might have other interests. Maybe they want a career in politics or something, fine, or they want to make some money quickly. Maybe they'll get interested. But the average youth, I don't think, is that interested in that kind of activity. But if I look at Muslim organizations, if I look at, say, solidarity work around the Palestinians, if I look at the broad range of charity and relief organizations throughout the country, there are so many young men and women involved. If I look at now lately, I'm noticing, even if I look at the many masjid committees, the old generation are gone. They're gone or they're dying. That's the reality of life. A new generation of people are coming out into masjid committee work, structure, building work, programs, etc. So I think there's a lot of strength in the community. But you're right. When it comes to political representation or party political representation, we seem to be a dying breed. Maybe we are the last sort of fossils of that era. And it's not good. It's not good. Every community must have political representation, must have political leverage, must have access to key power players in society. And we're still there as a bridge. But we must also accept that our time is also coming to an end. We're not going to be here forever. So a new generation of political leaders who are going to go into government or in the public service, that is very, very important. And I think that's where we seem to be lacking somewhat.
And the youth today are our future leaders, and they can make the change, as they progress and get older. If you tend to ask a normal teenager, what is the legacy of apartheid? I mean, many of them won't even know what to tell you. The scars of apartheid run deep. It leaves a legacy of segregation, discrimination, inequality. There's evidence in the economic disparities in the country, and we as South Africa were described as the most unequal country in the world, and that kinds of sums it up. But everything tends to, right now, currently, where everything tends to be becomes a race issue. Why is that? When you look at progression, but if there's something, then race is brought there, regardless of what race. Why would you say that? I mean, your opinions and views.
Yeah. Well, 2 points there. One is, I think I'm very concerned that history is a dying subject in schools.
It's dead already.
Well, that's the thing. That's the lack of understanding of the past is precisely because history is not valued as a subject. If I have it my way, I'll make history compulsory up to grade 10 level as a minimum. And I would encourage it even at grade 11 and 12 levels, because it's important to get that historical context, understanding, skills, so that you better understand today and perhaps have some perspective on what might transpire in the future. Now, that is virtually phasing out, and that's the big problem even in the Muslim schools. The second thing is this, that you're right. I mean, a kind of subculture has emerged in our country that things are highly racialized. When there's scarce resources, when there's limited opportunities for employment, then there's a vulgarized understanding or application of affirmative action. In law, affirmative action means whoever has been historically disadvantaged. So that's African people, Indian people, and colored people, and women have been historically disadvantaged in our society because of apartheid. They need to be affirmed. But the way in which it is now, it is being applied sometimes in the private sector, but certainly in the public service and more pronounced in KZN, it's almost as if it's for Africans only. That is not the policy of the ruling party or the government of the day. It's a vulgarization of the policy. It is a distortion of the policy, and it is doing untold damage to societal development, because very valuable skills that are there in what you call the minority communities, Indian, colored, and white communities. We're not tapping into that for the development of the country, for the better use of the public interest. And as a result, these young people are getting demoralized. They're frustrated. They're not getting jobs. Some, of course, are going abroad because they see other opportunities and they're grabbing those opportunities. But I know in these last few days that I was in KZN, I found a student who's graduated as a criminologist. She can't get a job. There's someone who is a pharmacist, couldn't get a job. There's a doctor still struggling to get a job, and they're all from the province. They're young people. So I think that is a fault line in society, because that creates a sense of grievance, right, in communities. And if we don't manage that properly and in a creative and constructive and positive way, well, then you get people who are going to start, eventually a time will come when people are going to stand up against that. And that will lead to greater social, tensions, and it will divide our communities, which is not necessary. I think we've got it within us, or we should have it within us, to use the talents of all to build this country.
Do you know, what you're saying is valid points. When you look at Islam teaches us to value the energy and the ideas of our youth. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, wisely advised us to make the most of our youth, health, wealth, free time, and just life itself. But when we look at the world today, we see so many challenges, and I think, I don't know whether our youth today are more vocal or they more solid and goal orientated from the youth 20 or 30 years ago, or even 40 years ago. This is an argument which continues. Why don't our youth get involved in every sphere of our country? But again, there's always challenges. So we as educators, leaders, need to make a change. You've also been holding a position as one of leadership with South African Democratic Teachers Union. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Taking you back in time.
In the 1980s, we were young upstarts as teachers. We felt that the old Professional Teachers Association, TASA, Teachers Association of South Africa, which organized Indian teachers in the department, was too moderate, too accommodating of the apartheid order, was not militant enough.
Yeah.
And of course, we were politicized. And when we got into the profession, we felt really frustrated. We felt hamstrung, and it was a stifling atmosphere. The old teachers were more interested in promotions, in not upsetting the apple cart, and we thought that we needed to transform the system. So we wanted a non-racial system. And out of that, in Indonesia, in 1986, we formed the Progressive Teachers League. Billy Morgan, that you referred to in the introduction, became the president of the Progressive Teachers League. And in a very short while, we built relationships with other similar teacher groupings in El Dorado Park, the Progressive Teachers Union, the National Education Union of South Africa, NUSA. And in the townships all over the country, we had these new teacher unions emerging, like the Mamelodi Teachers Union, the Atteridgeville Teachers Union. And very soon we realized that these were localized structures. Like we were largely Lenasia-based or Johannesburg-based, but we were saying common things. And we started meeting as the Progressive Teachers Bloc. Initially, we were very committed to the idea or the vision of a teacher union or trade union for teachers in the country. We were looking at what was the position in the United Kingdom, for example, in Canada. There were teachers unions. And we said, why couldn't we organize, along similar lines? So the first 2 or 3 years was quite sort of acrimonious between us and the older established teacher associations. And ultimately, by 1988, the ANC took the initiative to call the leaders from both camps, in a sense, to a meeting outside of the country, and where some basic understanding was developed that, look, we share the same ideals, we work in the same constituency, we have a common vision of a non-racial South Africa, and there's no need for tension, but what we should be doing is uniting to build one powerful national teacher organization in the country, which will be non-racial. And the second point was that it's not professionalism or unionism. In fact, it should be two sides of the same coin. We are professionals and we must be advanced professionalism in the classroom, but at the same time, we can be militant trade unionists or teacher unionists looking at the benefits and the working conditions of teachers and the political rights of teachers. And I think Sattu was able to do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, today, that doesn't seem to be the shared vision anymore.
Yeah. Do you know, I also held a position with the union. I was education convener. And, we mobilized as a bloc. We all thought the same for progressive labor issues, assisting, helping, welfare cases in education, trying to make change and a difference, But as years go by and currently, these are my views, our leaders today, their vision, their mission is so different. Sometimes people, our leaders are there appointed, because it's a caucus status quo which goes, and then we also have the cadre deployment, especially in education. And you must have heard stories, read stories, seen things on social media, even on news, television, about KZN being the province with the worst corruption, even in education, buying of posts, selling of posts, people who do not deserve the post or haven't got the post, but there's some kind of deal made with the union, Department of Education. It's always in the press. What's your views and opinions, or what's your views and opinions to move forward and try to stop this? Because this seems to be like, they say the fish rots from the head, but this is like the whole body is rotten. How do we as a province, your advice for us to come out of this?
Well, there are two things. One is that the non-racialism of Sattu seems to be on the back foot at the moment.
Yeah.
Even if they are Indian and colored and white teachers, they're just token members. They're not actively involved. I think by far the majority are not actively involved. They just pay, a membership paying members of the organization. So that's the one problem. The activism that was there in our time, we were alive, we were directly involved at branch level in all the affairs of the organization. That seems to have waned quite a bit. The second thing is this, that I think the Minister of Education, N.G. Mutsaka, must take responsibility for this.
Yeah.
She commissioned an investigation into the whole issue of whether Sattu people were buying posts, were they capturing posts, were they controlling education indirectly. That report was made available to her by the panel that she had appointed. She has not made that report public as far as I'm aware. I've got a copy of the report. I've read the report. It does suggest quite strongly that the problems that you are alluding to are real. It might not be true all over the country or in every school, but the overall conclusion of the panel was that there seemed to be some credence to the allegations that Sattu is buying posts, and that they are controlling appointments at school level in many places where they have the stronghold. And it is only their members that are being appointed, and it increasingly is tending to be African members of Sattu, as opposed to other members from other communities who are also Sattu members. So the minister is sitting with the report. She has just not acted on it. She has not processed that report and moved on with it, and started engaging with her counterparts in the provinces. And the sad thing is that teachers all of them collectively have also just been so passive and accepted this.
Yeah.
So you see, you can only bring about, if something has gone wrong, if nobody does anything about it, nothing will change.
Exactly.
And the whole concept of activism, is that there must be fire in your blood. If you give that up, then you're just a passive person in society, and then you must tolerate what is there. So what is intolerable must be challenged.
Standing for justice, standing for the truth. Many people are so afraid, of victimization, afraid of, you must be heard of stories, where leaders' houses, cars have been bombed, they have been shot. And this is a very sad part of our country, and it's very sad because, the people who are holding positions are not worth those positions. There's no change. It's just a personal gain. It's a personal gain.
So people rule, people stay in power through intimidation. Okay? And the only way in which you can break that is through the collective power of members on the ground and teachers on the ground. I say, let's take a hypothetical situation. If 5,000 teachers in Durban Central march and say, no more, we want to break this corruption in appointments, it is wrong, we start exposing it, we start talking about it, suddenly the mood will change. It is your collective power that gives you strength. On your own, you'll feel helpless. And that is where the activism comes. And activism can't happen without leaders.
And they're not troublemakers.
Some grouping of people have to be bold enough to stand up.
And you know,
if you were, if I take back the 1980s, if we as youngsters, young upstarts, didn't have at least the courage to stand up, the older teachers just went on with the system. When an inspector walked into the school, into his classroom, they froze. They literally froze. Right? But it took a younger generation of people to challenge that. And some were victimized, of course. Some were fired. Some were detained ultimately. Some, were put under pressure by inspectors. Some were not promoted. But that's the cost of standing up. So I'm not saying we must become reckless. But what I'm saying, we can't become so timid. Then you must, if you remain in the state of timidity, everybody, well, then you must live with what is there.
True.
You have to challenge, and we are not, if I use the Afrikaans word dumb copper, we have got a critical consciousness. And we must exercise that.
We'll be taking a short ad break.
For all your Umrah attire, Zamzam water, fresh stock of dates at a ridiculously low price is now available at the Al Ansar Book and Media Shop at 207 West Road, Overport.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031-306-4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickville Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Radio Al Ansar, in collaboration with Radio Islam, invites you to an electrifying political debate. Join us this Wednesday, the 15th of May at 7:30 p.m. at 189 West Road, Overport, to hear directly from the ANC, DA, EFF, and many more as they share their vision for our future. This political event will be moderated by Yunus Sakur, CEO of the Al Ansar Foundation, and Maulana Suleiman Rawat of Radio Islam. This event is open to the public, so be there and make your voice heard. Remember, every vote counts.
Radio Al Ansar.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to School Matters. Our guest, who we are linking up all the way from Johannesburg, is Dr. Ismail Vadi, also an ex-MEC of Gauteng and someone who's really involved in education. You've been here on the weekend. Also, you've been at the bookshop with your books, which you have written with your passion, and you go back in time. You talk about the teachers in the struggle against apartheid, and you've also written quite a few other books. Going back to get our minority, or going back to get our Muslim youth involved in activism, or just our Muslim ummah to be involved in the country, in shaping the landscape of the country. We all tend to complain, and it's very hard, or we don't get that determination and that goal. I'm representing this group and I can make a change. At the moment, we have very few Muslim, people who are involved in politics. What's your views? I'm asking you this on air. Currently, here in KZN, we have a brother Imran Subrati. He's number 7 on the list as as a legislator, KZN. Do you think he's a promising leader?
Well, I don't want to talk specifically about a particular candidate.
Yeah.
I have met him, very briefly when I was there. And I think he's a young person that's showing promise. So it's a good sign. But I do want to say two things. One is that teachers are leaders. Teachers can inspire another generation. And if I take many of the activists that came in the Lenasia Youth League, for example, in our time, it was teachers like myself, Sean Bolton, the late Firoza Adam. There's a whole number of progressive teachers in public schools, not in private schools, that actually politicize and develop the leadership skills of a whole generation of students in that community. Some of them are playing very powerful roles today. If I take Kuben Naidu, he was the deputy governor of the South African Reserve Bank. He was a little youngster in Topaz Secondary under the wing of Nishan Bolton, who is the current director of the Ambedkar Foundation. Of course, he came from a political family. But like that, I can count on a whole number of people who are playing very influential roles. If I take Professor Shabir Vadi, who was such a vocal person during the COVID period, who is the head of medicine at Wits University at the moment, he came to the Lenasia Youth League. So leadership is, teachers can inspire, teachers can light that spark. And my biggest concern is that teachers, even in the Muslim schools, are not tapping into that, are not talent spotting, are not cultivating and nurturing and building that leadership. I spoke on Thursday last week at Orient school, Muslim school, and I simply said, look, I could be wrong, but we have now 35 years of Muslim schools in this country, probably over 100 or 120 Muslim schools. Show me a leader that has emerged from the Muslim school fraternity. I'm not talking about good doctor or good lawyer. That's their professions, that's their careers, and I'm sure they're outstanding people there. Show me a national leader that has emerged from the Muslim school establishment. And I'm quite connected to a wide range of people nationally.
You mentioned this.
Then they show that.
You mentioned this on Saturday.
The problem lies in perhaps also in the management and the teaching core in the Muslim schools. Is leadership, building leadership across the board, not just political, economic, etc., but building a core of leaders. Is that a key strategic objective of the Muslim school? And yet children have natural talent. Not everybody's a leader, but clearly in any school, in any classroom, you will find that certain young people have a natural inclination and natural talent to lead. Whether they are organized as prefects or SRCs or class captains or whatever you want to call them, that's because they've got leadership potential. Now, once we've identified that core, are we building that leadership capability? Are we taking them for training, speech making, writing speeches, how to organize, going out in communities and doing grassroots community work around their interests? Even the interest might be climate change, for example. Are we using that leadership potential in the schools to do community work? That's how you build leadership. Nobody can deliver a leader on a platter. It's done through hard work, through organizational work, through programs in communities, educational programs, etc. So if you take all your Muslim school head girls and head boys over the last 30 years, where are they? Why haven't we produced a leader from there, a genuine national leader? Yet all of us who were in parliament in the last, decade or 2 or 3 ago, we all came from public schools. We didn't have private schools. We just didn't have it. We came from run-down, poorly constructed public schools. But what made us was really certain teachers who invested in us, who saw the potential in us, and who gave us that critical consciousness, who developed that within us, and gave us the opportunity to start leading in communities.
Just doing the right thing and standing for justice. That's can make a world of change, and others can learn from you and be the change. Sometimes we keep quiet, and when we keep quiet, there's no difference than just being like the oppressed person. So we need to stand up and make a difference. And again, you said you're a troublemaker, but you're not a troublemaker. You're standing for haq. We say we're standing for haq. What's the truth? Parting words, I think we need another interview. Parting words to our youth out there, especially our Muslim youth. How can they be a change in our country?
So I want to end up with a simple anecdote. In the last few months, we had one or two young teachers in Indonesia that were doing some work around Palestine in the classroom.
Yeah.
And the principals came and were quite intimidating and told them, no, this is not in the curriculum and you bring in politics in the classroom, and they threatened them. And it took just a number of 10, 15 other teachers to say, no, this is not acceptable. They rallied around those teachers and they've organized themselves, and today they've created a network of teachers. So not like a union or a big organization. They've created a teacher network here in Gauteng called Educators for Humanity. And suddenly you see a whole new generation of younger people, younger teachers actually emerging and saying, no, we want to get on with things in the classroom. I mean, we're overburdened with the paperwork, with the admin work, with just the instructions coming one after the other from the district office. Sometimes we don't even understand the value of these instructions and what they're imposing on us. And suddenly discussion has now started. So it took one teacher's problems and others rallying around it. Just a few of them rallied. Today, we've got a loose network of teachers in Gauteng called Educators for Humanity. And when I spoke at Al-Ansar on Saturday, I thought there were quite a few teachers there, retired teachers, and they all expressed interest in this, saying that how can we get connected to these people? And how can we begin to replicate a similar kind of loose, because that's the nature of the new movements of today. They're network-based. They're not structured and executive committee and branches. But it's a loose network that virtually exists on social media, WhatsApp, etc. But they organize. And I can tell you 2 months ago, they organized a placard demonstration of teachers around the Palestinian issue in Lens, right, at the entrance of Lens. Now, I've been part of placard demonstration for the last 30 years. This was the biggest demonstration we had in Lens, made up of teachers and students around the Palestinian issue.
Brother,
and they started with nothing.
Dr. Ismail Vadi, we are running out of time. I'd like to
that. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah for taking the time, and inshallah, you know what? We're going to come to you for advice and for leadership, true real leadership. May the Almighty bless you, and may you continue doing all the work that you do, inshallah.
Ameen, inshallah. Ameen.
I'd like to thank our listeners. My email address is sumayakhan.alansar@outlook.com. I'd also like to thank our technician Mondi for making the show possible. You're never too young to change the world. Nothing can dim the light which shines from within. The power of change starts with us. Assalamu alaikum.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. Wanted murder suspect shot dead in Hillcrest. American police have shot and killed a wanted murder suspect in KwaZulu-Natal. A team arrested the man at King Shaka International Airport as he tried to flee the province yesterday. Investigations led the police to a residential estate on Ashley Road in Hillcrest, where they began searching for his accomplice. Robert Nechuanda of the police says the suspect was wanted for the murder of a 24